Okay, here I am again. Sound check, video check.
Hi, everybody.
Eva's got her cell phone playing music in the background there. Can anyone hear it? Sounds good, Richard. Certainly, Chris. I don't have a whole lot new to report either. I was doing a lot of preparation and this and that, and working with Lauren on a project he was doing. Uh, Right now, tonight, Jim is not available. He's at his house with a broken truck. Yeah, they cannot hear the uh, music, little one, so that's good. Um, and unfortunately, Lauren is in the hospital. It does not appear to be life threatening. He went in this morning for something, and hopefully, they can get him fixed up without an operation or something like that. But would appreciate the positive vibes, prayers, things like that. He says the oil pump went out on his truck. He says it's a fairly common problem with that particular engine. Unfortunately, with that particular truck, in order to get the oil pump off and put a new one on, you have to pull both the front timing gear cover and the differential has to be lowered about 3 inches in order to get the oil pan off. So it's going to be some work. Hey, Zioxio! Haven't seen you in a while. How you doing?
Easy, Oxio.
Anyhow, so I say this week I was pretty much helping Lauren. School's really busy, huh? And it was a very um, the actually we were fishing yesterday, but that probably didn't have anything to do with it. Although I did caught my first walleye yesterday. Um, hey, 1000, and caught some nice big trout, about that big. Let's see, about that big. So you can see the hands, which I threw back. And I say, caught my first walleye, and they are very tasty. I much prefer them to trout. Eva also does too. The particular place we were catching, it's got a lot of rocks and about 2,000 kilometers of old fishing line and a couple thousand lures on the bottom. I literally, kid you not, I brought in 3 lures yesterday, all functional, of which I lost 2. But yeah, I brought in a swim bait, a jig, and a copper Castmaster, of which I still have the copper Castmaster because the fish were going after anything silver.
I have a brainstorm.
What?
Cast with a bare hook so you can catch lures all day.
Yeah, you could if I took my big uh pole out there with heavy line on it. Yeah, it's hard to tell what we might get, but yeah, it was fun. I met Lauren out there. I'd been there a couple hours, and he came out, and he and Clara were out there, and we fished until pretty dark and had a good time. Well, that kind of sucks. 1000. He says, now that we're on daylight savings time, the stream started at 2 o'clock local instead of 1 o'clock local for him. Man, um, I don't think um, magnet fishing would work. I mean, it's rocks, stuff hung up in the rocks, and lots of line, you know. And sometimes you go out there and you there's just certain places where you keep getting the same hang up each time, and it gets very annoying. But let's say I had a good time and caught 4 or 5. I'd call them big trout. I mean, I think the smallest one was probably a pound and a half, 2 pounds, and the biggest one was, gosh, 4 and a half, something like that. It was a big beast. Um, yeah, I think just a treble hook, with heavy line. I don't know. It'd be nice if you could get a boat out there. I mean, it's right below the dam, so you can't, but that would be nice. Or if you could go out there diving, it would be cool to go diving out there. But yeah, the current's pretty strong, and you're in the tail race of a power plant. And they had one of the spillway gates open a little bit yesterday too, so there was a pretty good current running. Had um, a lot of things happening yesterday. It would have been rough to run a diver out there, but that would have been fun. No, I haven't. Where was that, Zioxio? Hebgen Dam. I never heard of Hebgen Dam. Caused the river to run dry back in December. No, I wasn't. I didn't notice anything. Um, but anyhow, uh, so that was it. Just south of Helena. Well, there's Hauser and there's Holter, but I haven't heard of Hebgen. Let's see. No, wait a minute. South of Helena. I keep thinking that is south because downriver. So south of Helena would be, huh? Where the hell is Hebgen Dam? Okay, now you've got me wondering. Hebgen Dam, Montana. Hebgen Dam. Missouri River. Well, where the heck is. Oh, come on. West Yellowstone. Okay. So that's by Yellowstone there. So it wasn't the Missouri, it was. Oh, come on. Which one is that river? It's one of the three that makes up the Missouri. They come together at Three Forks. That's funny. Zoom in and it doesn't tell me what Madison. Okay, it was on the Madison. Okay. That would be cool. No, I didn't hear about it. Yeah, Toston, I know where you're talking about. Yeah, Hebgen is right up there near West Yellowstone, according to the map. And anyhow, so did that. Yeah, the job we were working on last week. And there's Miner Jim. See, he's on here. It was just he was working in a very confined space, and so I had to. I mean, my job was basically handing him tools through an opening. He was in a very compact spot, and I don't know if he wants anything more about what the job was, but anyhow, so my biggest problem most of the time was staying awake because I'm waiting for him. I need this, I need that. Could you adjust the welder a little bit? And so he had a sucky job. It was very tight where he was at. It was nice to be helpful because, his shop and stuff has been so helpful. And he and Claire have been so hospitable. this winter. It's made my job enormously easy. So it's nice to be able to pay it back a little bit. And so that was good. But because of that, I didn't get much done. Hello, Sean. We have committed to buying a 500-gallon conical bottom tank. I should be going up to Great Falls on Thursday to pick it up. We have a sheet of steel coming in on Wednesday to build the hopper and feeder assembly and stuff for the Stutenroth mill. And the problem with that, John, is if you use the zinc, you're pretty much consuming your Goldex or things like that. It works better at higher concentrations. With what we're doing, hey, Paw Patriot, the resin is a very efficient way of getting it out of solution. And so that's why. Although I think with the Eco Goldex, you have to destroy the Eco Goldex first, basically neutralize it, and then you can precipitate the gold that's in solution. Not sure, but anyhow, so I've got the plan is basically to have a hopper, the vibrating screen, and then the oversized goes into the Stutenroth mill. The undersized comes out, and that'll go to the agitation system. And the idea was I was going to start fabricating that on Wednesday. And we'll have to see what happens. Again, now I've got a trip up to Great Falls scheduled for Thursday. And then we've got, then we'll see how Lauren's doing. And, he's got a job he's in the middle of. So that's going to take priority to help him get that done. So we'll see what happens. The pickup tubes like to fall into the bottom of the pan. Well, can you get the pickup tube back on the pump without having to pull the front cover? Is the question. Yeah, that would kind of suck. Wonderful engineering. So that's basically where I'm at right now. We haven't really done much in the way of smelting last week. Plan was, as we were fabricating all this stuff, we could do smelting at the same time. And in the next week or two, should be gearing up out there at the ranch to get that pad back in operation and get the Stutenroth going. I'm feeling good. Been doing some, I'd call it moderate exercise right now. Where I parked the truck, the drainage was poor. So today I was using a mattock and the scrake to rearrange the countryside, and seems to be just fine. So another couple weeks, I should be able to pick up a bucket of ore without too much trouble. So that's should be doing a lot of stuff real quick here, but this was not the week for it. Too much other stuff, and we shall see. But hopefully, I'll have quite a bit of stuff by next Monday and get some videos up and everything. So with Jim somewhere else, me not having accomplished very much, and etc. I guess we can start out with questions. Does anyone have any questions, especially any new people or whatever? Um, and we can start with that. The um, something I can show you here. I went out to the ranch to get a template for the Stutenroth mill, and I had Eva hold the cardboard up against the mill, and this is the actual outline of the Stutenroth mill to give you an idea of the size. It's 1 foot thick, and this way I can fabricate and I can get a good match on the shapes of everything. But that'll give you an idea of what the Stutenroth mill size is. And let's see. Man, I say it's just been one of those weeks where a lot of stuff got done, but nothing really exciting. Although I must admit, I was very excited to catch my first walleye. And they're a lot easier to grab than a trout, too. Trout are really slippery. Walleye, you can grab it and get a good grip on it. It's got scales that are a little like pointy a little bit. But anyhow, barn roof. Not if it's only that wide. What is that anyway? Oh, what's the diameter on this rascal? Looks like 28.5 inches. So it's not a heck of a lot bigger than my mill. Yeah, the feeder showed up. Theoretically today, that's another good question. See, what would that be? That would be on Amazon. So let me call that. Theoretically, the screen for it was supposed to show up today. See if it, let's see what happened. Your orders, yes. My orders. That's what I want to look at. Why is it having problems? Let me try it again here. Amazon. Orders. I don't know. The Amazon screen is having issues. Let me go to Outlook here and look at, they send me an email because I ordered 2 foot long, 1 foot wide, 30 mesh screen. Your package will arrive Tuesday, March 29th. Okay, so it'll be here tomorrow. That's right, today's Monday. I forgot. Half-inch plate. Where would the half-inch plate be, David? The Stutenroth may be 1/4 inch on the outside. Now it has wear bars in it that are like 2 inch by 1 inch or 3 inch by 1 inch, a foot long. And that was that's going to add a lot of weight. It's a pretty stoutly built mill, you know, but I think mine's a little more portable. I'm wondering why they think they. I guess it's the internal classification of mine. Mine gives a much finer grind on average than theirs does. The other thing I'm thinking of doing on the milling system once I get it kind of all automated is to put a little sluice as the slurry is going into the what do you call it, into the agitation tank, um, then that way, if there are some coarser gold particles, we'll start seeing them and recovering them, because the coarser stuff isn't going to recover too well. No, I'm pretty sure it's quarter inch, David. Um, thewesterngroup.com. Okay, let's see what this is, Chris. For all your screening needs. Okay. Let me save this one.
Well, I had an Amazon gift card, so we got it for $1.99.
Okay, got it. Chris, thank you.
Some of us are smart shoppers.
Yep. For those of you who don't know what Miner Jim is talking about when he says shed hunting, sheds are the antlers that fall off of elk and deer after the season, and elk antler runs like $7 a pound or something, so you can make quite a bit of money off of that. I just decided to go fishing a couple days this week. The weather's been really nice right now. Computer says it's 64 degrees outside, mostly cloudy, and it's definitely mostly cloudy. The porch thermometer says 60. Thank you, 1,000. 15 a pound. So you get a big elk antler, you know.
I want some sheds.
Well, I'm sorry.
Y'all gotta go shed hunting.
Zioxia says a guy who had 4 kids was killed by a bear a few days ago while shed hunting near West Yellowstone. Yeah, we got to do something about those bears. One of the problems with the bears, he was hiking alone, had pepper spray and a gun, but had them packed away in his backpack. Okay, Darwin Awards.
That is like,
that's sad, but
I'm sorry, that is just really bad.
That's why you you have them to hand. When I was in Idaho, I said, because the grizzly bears are protected, that they have been trained when they hear a gunshot, they come to eat the critter that you've killed. You're not allowed to shoot them, so they're just training bears essentially to be dangerous. Yeah. And I mean, that's why one reason I carry my 44. When we're out camping, I'll have my 44 on me. And Eva, well, actually in the camper is my 12 gauge. So when I'm not there, there is a weapon at hand, but also the ability to signal is really good. I mean, if I'm up on the mountain and I hear a shot go off down at camp, I'm coming back to camp. Likewise, if I'm up on the mountain and Eva hears 3 shots, you know, she's going to be coming up. But anyhow, when Fish and Game went grizzly hunting reopened, an activist judge in Seattle is blocking it. Yep. Yeah, John. If the law doesn't allow you to protect yourself, I mean, if you can prove that the grizzly bear was attacking you and you shot it, you're still going to have to go to a court hearing to prove that you were being attacked. But if you can't prove it attacks you, you're going to jail. And they got more grizzly bears than they need right now. If you thin them out by putting a season on them, then the more aggressive and less afraid of human bears are going to be the ones that tend to get thinned out. And that way, the remaining bear population tends to be averse to humans because the ones that aren't get killed really quickly. And so that's why you need to have a season on these things. And Fish and Game is more than competent to determine what level of hunting provides a healthy population of whatever animal that is. Okay. Um, but something needs to thin the population out or it will just grow. It's going to be either starvation or predation. That's sometimes disease, but that's intermittent. But something will always limit the population in nature. Now, human beings can provide regulated predation so that it keeps a fairly stable population without human beings actively involved. You're going to get these boom and bust cycles. And that just creates a number of problems. But when you have this what do you call it, philosophy of nature good, people bad, it makes it very, very difficult for um, the government to regulate things properly, even if there's people trying to do it. And we got the same problem with the forests here. They can't thin the forest to prevent beetles destroying them. So you wind up with a whole bunch of dead trees, and then somebody fire starts, and voila, what a mess. Well, it's hard to tell, Zioxio. I know years ago, somebody killed a grizzly bear somewhere up here, like Wyoming, Montana, or whatever. Had a ranch or a farm, equivalent. Dogs were making noise outside. He goes out, says that the bear was attacking his dog, and then it attacked him. He kills the bear, and he had to go all through hell. You know, well, you should have just let it eat your dog. You know, exactly, Zioxio. Yeah, and it you don't want a small gun either. You know, yeah. I say the 44 Magnum, in my opinion, is probably underpowered against a grizzly. Okay, um, it's not what I would like to use, but it's a lot better than my bare hands. And the 12 gauge is more not approved, but it's more recommended. Those 12 gauge slugs can do a lot um, for a bear. Although something like the M1, 8 rounds of 30-06 in rapid succession can also do a lot of damage. But yeah, it's something to be thoughtful of when you're up in this neck of the woods. Well, Zioxia, that's why they invented the 50 caliber Smith and Wesson. That was literally the purpose, was for bear hunting, not hunting, bear defense. I mean, I can't imagine what the kick on that thing. I mean, it's 3 times the muzzle energy of a 44 Magnum, you know. But yeah, to get enough energy to take on a big bear, yeah, that's a little more than you can get and still hold it in your hands. Yeah, Alex, I've got it's soft nose, like 230 grain soft nose. Yeah, makes sense, Jim. Depending upon where you're going, you may need to have somebody watching while the other person is working, and then be able to employ two weapons at once. I mean, that's in my opinion. If you're dealing with a bear, it's far superior to have two people with two weapons. Um, First of all, it makes harder for the bear to decide which one to go after, and also you got twice as much energy coming in from multiple directions. Yeah, far superior. And that's how I can understand, but it shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't have to be defending our lives against the wildlife. Uh, well, Zioxio, they also have necked it down to, I think there's a 430 and like a 450. The 430 Magnum is basically like an AK-47 on your hip. Yeah, you don't want the bear to surprise you. You don't want to surprise the bear either. That's why it's a good idea in general when you're hiking out here to make a lot of noise so that the bear, you don't startle the bear. It doesn't, hear something moving through the bushes, think it might be food, and then it's you, you know. But yeah, it's luckily none of the places that we're dealing with are really that much grizzly bear habitat.
Nope.
We're a little bit
We are not in
further
Baton Rouge.
down in elevation and stuff, so that's good.
No water.
And oh, the bear killed the guy, but because the guy surprised the bear, they're not going to go after the bear. Yeah.
This makes perfect sense. Clown world.
Yeah. It's like, I don't care. They killed a human being. We don't want them to get that idea. Yeah, Jim, one more thing to fix after the revolution. All it takes is some common sense, and so many things can be avoided. David, they're talking about the wearing bells on you so that you don't surprise the bear. It's constantly making noise. But yeah, the crazies have taken over. That's for sure. I personally find it amazing that you have a nominee for uh, the Supreme Court who has to judge things based on laws that mention men, women, things like this in it, who can't define what a woman is. It's like, well, if you don't know what a woman is, then you don't know what this law means when it says women. Therefore, you apparently aren't able to interpret the law.
Well, the media backed her up.
Yeah.
Biological philosophers backed her up.
Zioxio, I'm not a biologist. I can't tell if it's a bear. Yeah, I would think 1,000 is your bears are fairly timid. There's so many people and stuff, but let's say over here, we have a low population density of people, and so there is a lot of bears. Yeah, Ali, you're absolutely correct. Grizzlies are not nice people. Well, I think brown bear though is actually a specific subspecies. In terms of that's the proper name. But grizzlies are actually a subspecies of brown bear, so to speak.
Yep.
Yep. I don't know. But I say so that's shouldn't be too much of a problem where we're at. Uh, Hopefully, again in the next couple of weeks, I'll be up to speed. Eva is going to see what she can do in terms of getting herself in shape so she can be exercising all summer, slinging buckets and shovels and stuff. So that's going to be interesting to see how well that works out. She's she's doing well physiologically, and
Increased my bone density.
and so we will see what goes on. But that's the plan. Uh, we have enough ore at the ranch that we can do. I'm guessing we got a couple, I mean, 2 or 3 tons at least sitting there, um, already jaw crush, ready to go into an impact mill. Because what I was doing is, as we were bringing buckets of ore back from the mine, I would throw the larger rocks in a pile, and anything that would go easily into the RC-46, I just run through the RC-46 and stockpiled it over by the mill. It's pretty easy to just wheelbarrow it over there. Ooh, that reminds me, I need to get new bearings for the wheelbarrow wheel. It was an Ace wheelbarrow, and bought it last year, and the bearings on the wheel are gone. Literally at this point. Um, so I have enough to do some testing, etc. And pretty quick, I'll be out there uh, circulating solution and stuff, and we'll be getting going again. It's probably going to be about 2 3 weeks. Until then, I got to get the modification for the Stutenroth done, and the screen feeder and everything all done. Anyway. Um, what did we do on the? I have a calculator, and I did do a video a long time ago on my calculator. But what was the
You're
link?
going to have to pull up a window. It's like wixsite.com/Keith Bullen.
Yeah, but where did we put it?
It's on your bookmarks bar in that computer.
Okay. So it's bookmarked, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Hold on, Zeoxio. Let me get you a link to it. Yep, there we go. Control C. Okay, Zeoxio, are you ready? Go to that and go to the mining project economics calculator, and that will do it. I don't know about the particular self-propelled wheelbarrow. The stuff that I'm doing, I can pretty much do it easily with a regular wheelbarrow. So let's see. eBay says that if you buy anything over $600 now, you're going to have to send them your 20 IRS thingy and stuff. Wonderful. Oh, and they're also talking about imposing a 20% unrealized gains tax on people make worth over $100 million. That's going to work really well for the economy, folks. Yeah.
It'll go swimmingly. We all know this.
Go ahead, Zeoxio. That's what it's for. Is to help people avoid problems, and get an idea of what is the other thing that I found that was really fun when I first invented one years ago with just a spreadsheet was I could play what if games and get a better idea, a better intuitive sense of what works and what doesn't, you know? Uh, we don't need it, Chris, you know? Um, I say that what we're set up right now, once we get it up to surface, then it goes down the high line, and right there is the quad. So pretty simple there. It was over at the ranch. They've got a line of shrubbery that was planted years ago that makes it difficult to get a vehicle right to the pad. And so that's where the wheelbarrow comes in handy. I can get about, I don't know, 50 feet away without too much trouble. Well, Zioxio, that's why they need to do a little bit of homework. Because, yeah, you can't, but at least it tells them what numbers do you need to figure out? Get a number 4. And so that's it. I'm really hopeful that we'll do pretty well this time. I'm really excited because it's I'm thinking, okay, we got this problem figured out, that problem figured out, that problem figured out. Now we're actually upgrading to the Stutenroth mill and a bigger agitation tank. I say 500 gallons should do about 1,500 pounds of ore at once with a 2-to-1. Okay, 1,000. Thanks for showing up. With a 2-to-1 slurry to ore ratio by increasing the solids ratio, we can probably get a ton in it. Depending upon how things work, especially in the early part of the game, where it's basically going to be me and Eva. Not sure how we're going to balance things out, but it wouldn't be unusual, for example, to have ore in the tank while we're out there mining. So it may get a couple of extra days of agitation leaching intermittently while we're gone mining, because there's no sense putting it on the leach pad if you're not going to be adding more ore to the tank. So planning right now just having a submersible pump near the top, hose coming around and injecting in the bottom. There's going to be some dead bedding of solids along the sides, but it's a very simple system. Let me show you what it would look like here. Got the whiteboard set up. Okay, we have a pump hanging down here, and then a hose going down here. Here we'd have a T. So we'd have a valve here and a valve here. So you could open this valve, run that pump, and you'd be injecting solution up here. This is actually a steeper side. It's actually a 30-degree cone. Not ideal, but that's what we can get. So there's probably going to be some dead bedding. You're going to get some sand that's going to tend to stick here, some of the heavier stuff. And you could either leave that between runs or wash it out at the end of each run. We'll do some tests and see what makes sense. But anyhow, you recirculate like this. Here's your liquid level. And then when you're done, you just open this valve and drain it out onto the pad to recover your solution. So that's our basic plan. If you use propellers and stuff, you need to have a generally a drive shaft, support bearings that have to operate in a very abrasive environment, and a gear reduction. You know, for big tanks, for big companies and stuff, makes plenty of sense. For something on our level, we want something as simple and inexpensive as possible. Yeah, John, that's I would agree with that. I think that the precious metals are a good investment right now. I don't see them going down anytime soon, and I can see um, a high probability of them skyrocketing. And Eva will be doing her report later. But anyhow, that's basically the plan for the agitation tank. And the impact mill, to start with, I'm just going to be collecting in buckets and just dumping it into the uh, agitation tank. Once we get everything kind of figured out, running smoothly and this and that, we might put an injection system or a pump where basically we slurry it at the um, impact mill and pump it up into the tank. That could be done, for example, by pumping solution out of the tank and in through basically a jet pump and sucking it back, sending it back up. We'll just have to play. Right now, it's just going to be real simple. And that way, I've only got one thing to fix at a time and balance and figure out. And then once we get everything figured out there, then we'll know how much we got to move and blah, 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 blah. So it'll ought to be fairly straightforward. Eva, do you think you can pick up 20 pounds in the bucket without too much trouble?
Yeah. I can pick up 20 pounds in a bucket.
So if Eva can pick up a bucket and do that with it, it shouldn't be too bad.
Well, if you try to put me on a platform so I don't have to lift it as far over my head as possible, that would help.
Yeah, I'm sure we can find some steps or something. That's my thought, Chris, in the long run. Yeah, Kodak. Kodak is saying that he's thinking of mining Bitcoin and stuff in the wintertime because that way he can use the heat to heat his house. It's an expensive capital outlay for the heater, but on the other hand, hopefully it's making you money at the same time.
Go for the lesser known coins. Don't go for Bitcoin.
Yeah, Eva.
Go for like Litecoin, Ethereum. Go for Monero.
Yeah,
go for things you can switch into Bitcoin.
He even knows a fair amount about this. So, yeah. I think you mean kilowatts there, Chris. Zaxo says Monero is the best for privacy.
Yep.
Eva agrees, Zaxio. But anyhow, so say that's basically what I'm working on doing. Theoretically, in a couple of weeks, I'll be back up to full speed. And by then, hopefully, we'll have the Stutenroth mill modified and operational, and the new agitation tank in operation. And I'll be running the stuff at the mill, and we shall see what we shall see. I say I'm raring to go right now.
I want to
Oh,
go out to the Montana Bee and see things.
yeah. Eva wants to get out in the field again, and I understand that. Um, we can probably access it at this time physically because it's been a pretty dry winter. There's not much snow on there. I'm sure there's no snow right now, but theoretically, it's still closed. And even though we have a mining claim, if we don't have like a plan of operations or something, they might get grumpy. So that's one reason I hauled as much ore as I could over to the ranch last fall. Uh, so anyhow, that's basically it. Any questions out there? Oh, and by the way, um, interesting things are happening with respect to interesting information's coming out on the Ukraine thing. So that might get real interesting in the not too distant future in terms of what the real story is. Zioxio, I'm sure they're behind with everything right now. Yeah, so luckily we're operating on a small enough scale that we shouldn't need a plan of operations or even a notice of intent. And say we will see. That's why you should have just filed a notice of intent, Zioxio, instead of a plan of operations. Because a notice of intent, you don't have to get a response to. You said, hey, this is what I'm going to do. You got a problem? Let me know. They don't let you know. Hey, it's presumed it's okay. Whereas a plan of operations, you're saying, I want to do this and I got to wait for your approval. Well, that's not, what you really want to do right now. So that's how I would look at it. Is he using blasting caps or is he using something like a Sierra blaster? If we went to something like a Sierra blaster, he wouldn't need blasting caps. It wouldn't be an explosive. Therefore, it wouldn't need the plan of operations. That's to say this is sometimes where you lose a little bit in efficiency to get a lot in the speed. It's a plastic tank, Jeff. And why couldn't he get a Sierra blaster, Zioxio? They out of stock? They wouldn't ship them. Oh, okay. Supply issues. Yep. Good thing we got one then. Okay. In terms of swirling the thing. Now, obviously, let me just go to the bottom of the tank here. Now, as usual, there's a difference between simplicity and complexity in terms of how well things work. The simplest way is you have your conical bottom here, T, valves, and then this is your input, this is your drain, and this can go either way. It can be blowing up or it can be sucking out depending upon which valve is open and whether you got your pump going. Now, looking down on the top, there's your outlet. What you can do is you can put a smaller pipe through here. That's a 2-inch. I think the pumps are 1.25 inches. So you could take an 1.25 inch fitting here. You can turn this into a cross. You can take a reducer bushing and just shave that, what do you call it? That little stop ridge in there out of it so you can slide a pipe through there. And you could extend this up a little bit, have a T and some other stuff. If you look at it here, let's say this is your hole and here's your 1.25 inches. And then you put 1 T here and another T like this. And then you can put 90-degree L's like this. And so you got these jets like this being down here. They create a pretty good swirly. We had a, gosh, I don't know, 3,000 gallon, I think it was, tank at a mine I was at. And we used to use a system like that to slurry lime slurry for neutralizing it. I hope you're doing okay, Resort Dog.
Hi, Resort Dog.
Yeah, we have to be careful what we talk about, John, but yeah, some of the latest information is getting pretty interesting. And we're talking videos too. That's good, Resort Dog. Yeah, I've had I think 3 positive COVID tests and 2 or 3 negative COVID tests in the last 3 or 4 months because I had a lot of medical procedures to do. Never had any symptoms. So I have no idea whether it's, just the unreliability of the tests or I just don't show symptoms. I'm taking some vitamin D and stuff, so that might be it. Yeah, Zioxo, we were using a slurry pump, and it would get that stuff moving pretty good. So if you have your submersible pump near the top of the tank, you're not going to get your biggest particles. They're going to stay down below. So, it's going to be getting fairly small particles. Yeah, gravel pumps are expensive, but these submersible pumps that I got, which supposedly can handle some solids, aren't terribly. Oh, yeah, they got a pump that can pump almost anything. Good question, John. Actually, I'm symptomless. Yep. So, anyhow, that's possible, Zioxio. Some stuff you just, how the hell do they do that? I know when I was underground, the big centrifugal pumps that they used to pump the water, which would tend to have some solids in it, they used rubber impellers and rubber chamber liners to minimize wear. That's kind of like the party you were at last week, Chris, huh? But anyhow, so let's say we'll try just a direct upwelling first. And if that doesn't work, we can put some other stuff in there. Prefer to avoid that if possible. Again, simplicity is good, but who knows? We may have to get a little bit more complicated. I would presume so, Jeff. You're probably going to lose some efficiency also. You're not going to get quite high a head pressure you can operate at and things like that. The pumps we were using were, the impellers were this big. They were some big pumps. I'm not sure what the drive motors were, but somewhere between 100 and 500 horse. Not sure. But we're gonna dissolve the gold. The tests, the bottle roll tests showed the 60 mesh minus 95% dissolution in the first 24 hours. The 60 to 35 mesh was more like 65% dissolution in the first 24 hours. The 35 mesh plus was only 43% dissolution in the first 24 hours. So that's why I picked initially a 30 mesh classification size. We'll take a look at a number of the variables. For example, how much fines and slimes are we generating? And if we're not generating too much slimes, if the material is still easy to work with, we might go for a finer grind. Clearly, if we have a finer grind, we're going to get faster recovery. But that's, let's say, we'll find out and go from there. To change the screen on the classification vibrating feeder, it's less than $20 in about 10 or 15 minutes. So no big deal. We'll just have to see what we shall see. But I'm not terribly concerned about it because it's so easy to change. I'd rather avoid slimes problems right now, because that was one of my big problems on the leach pad with my mill, was I was getting quite a lot of slimes, and that was a pain in the butt. So hopefully we can kind of minimize it with this. We shall see what we shall see. But I'm kind of overshooting the other direction right now and see what happens. With 30 mesh minus on a pad leach, where you're spending several weeks at least out there on the pad, that shouldn't be a big problem. You have to screen out those big nuggets. Yeah. You mean the 300 mesh nuggets? And so that's I don't know. We will. I do like the idea of, in the long run, and by that I mean probably several months down the road, but not before the end of the season, slurring it right at the Stutenroth and pumping it up, and then putting a sluice, something like a VDR mat or something like that, as it goes into the tank. And that way, if we do start hitting some coarse gold, we'll find out about it pretty quick. It's 80% passing 2,000 mesh, Zioxio. 6.8 microns, 80% passing 6.8 microns. Yeah, it's real fine, which is why it dissolves so well. If you can get the solution to it, it's gone in 24 hours. It's in solution. My opinion, the only reason the 60 to 35 mesh isn't getting close to 100% recovery is simply that the gold is not on the surface where the solution can get to it. Exactly. And so this is why we're kind of looking at this balancing act. If all we were doing was a straight agitation leach, you'd want to go to at least a 60 mesh grind. But that's going to leave a lot of slimes, in my opinion, which we're not set up to deal with. Yeah, I'd say all this stuff is so independent, Resort Dog. You just got to do your laboratory tests and then some small scale, you know, bulk testing. And that's where you find out what it is. Then you got to do some calculations. It turns out how to optimize your profit. Because, of course, that's the goal, is to optimize profit, not recovery, profit. You can always get a better recovery by spending more money, but there's a diminishing returns that happens in there. Not terribly much the Oxio, because the on our scale, there's only certain kinds of crushers that make much in the way of economic sense, and um, and so at least at this time, we're pretty much stuck with an impact mill. 95% recovery in 24 hours at 60 mesh. That's pretty good, you know. So let's say we're kind of assuming that should be adequate. When you start getting into ball mills, rod mills, things like that, the capital expense per throughput and your portability really start having issues. Say we're shooting for 500 pounds an hour throughput for the pulverization circuit. The student Roth is rated at 2 tons an hour, rated, which of course means I don't know what it'll really take, but that's without recirculation. Initial grinding indicates that about half of the rock is going to be larger than 35 mesh when you put a single pass through it. So if it'll actually do 1,000 pounds an hour with recirculation, we're probably down around that 500 pounds an hour range. And that's what we're going to be trying to do. I don't think we're going to need anything that big, John. It's a good point, though. They make some nice kind of vortex mat. I don't know what you want to call it, like Wonder mat sort of things out of plastic, where they make like the whole sluice, which would be great if you did have nuggets. And say we got a long way to go before we get anything that's even possible to detect with a metal detector. Actually, the Rolls Crusher has a pretty good throughput. My RC46, the Rolls Crusher, will keep up with the jaw by definition, and it's running at 500 to 700 pounds per hour. The problem is it only crushes it so fine, you know. I'm not that familiar with hydrocyclones, the Oxio, so I don't love them. I don't hate them. I'm agnostic. Uh, a hydrocyclognostic. But anyhow, I say a lot of people really like them. I presume they do some jobs really well. Don't know. Again, it's the sort of thing that not familiar with it. I presume that before long I will be. Anyhow, so I say that's basically what I'm going to be doing over the next couple 3 weeks, is getting that all set up. Oh yeah, dust removal, sure. But I say aside from that, the plan is during the same time that we are crushing or doing this whatever out at the ranch, or when I'm building the stuff theoretically at Lauren's, this hopper and everything, we'll be doing some smelting at the same time because the smelting is primarily waiting. And it's easy. It's easy to do two things at once in a case like that. So that's probably what we'll do. Yeah, you're right, Zeoxy. I love no moving parts. Let's put that. A cyclone does have a moving part. It's just external. It's the pump. And the thing is, if the pump is doing something else, you get a twofer. You're doing more than one thing with one thing. And I always like that. When you do three things at once, it's even better.
Dang, I just kicked butt.
Okay. Eva just kicked butt over there somewhere. Can you come over and take over for a few minutes so I can go to the restroom?
The idea. Hold on a second.
She will consider the idea.
I gotta go to the bathroom first. You can wait. You're interrupting my survey kick-assedness here.
Oh. Anyhow.
While you were talking, I earned $4.
Oh, man. Yeah, they can also be a concentrator, Zeoxio. The difference is, do you have a widespread in particle sizes or not? Pull a number. I'm number 2 for number 1. But yeah, that's it. I'm having a great time just learning all this stuff too. And sometimes things are quite surprising, which is usually annoying. I don't like
all right, you
surprises.
Can go do something, come back. Goodbye. Hi, guys. No hat yet. I'm just holding the seat and keeping it warm, make sure it don't run away while he's gone. So, at any rate, yours truly has been kicking butt on surveys. Hi, Chris. Yeah, the political surveys are getting really weird lately. But I'm getting some other surveys too. I got a whole lot of surveys leading up to the Oscars asking me if I was going to watch the Oscars and if I knew anything about the movies in them. And it's like, are you kidding me? And then I found out I missed Will Smith slapping Chris Rock in the face over Jada Pinkett Smith's alopecia. Hi, Minor Jim. Sorry your truck is messed up. Not time for the hat yet, Lars. This is just holding the seat until he gets back. The hat will be in a half an hour or so. I got to find something to talk about that YouTube won't ban us for.
Won't be that way?
I have no bow, therefore no ears. Get with the program, Bear. Okay. Later, guys. Back to kicking butt on surveys.
So anyhow, she actually makes money doing a lot of really weird things on her thing. What do you know?
I've gotten $80 in Amazon gift cards in 2 weeks, and I got another 70 out there.
Yeah. See, she's earning money sitting in bed there playing on her smartphone. Pretty smart girl. We can always talk about crystals. Well, you could, Zeoxio, but that would mean you'd have to be here. So you can type about crystals.
You still gotta get me to a freaking crystal mine.
Yeah.
Somebody has to get me some crystals around here.
I mean, I've been pretty busy this winter just trying to get everything figured out for spring. She's doing pretty good, David. All the testing and stuff, it's kept me quite busy. Yeah, that would be really cool. Zeoxia says there's a gold prospect out by Ennis where there's amethyst crystals and hyalite opal quartz.
Oh, I want to see. I want to see.
There's a gosh, what's the name of it? Oops, wrong clipboard. Heartland Ag Systems up in Great Falls has a tank with integral stand for $1,500 in stock right now. Looking at other conical bottom tanks, it looks like if you have it with a separate metal stand, it's about $775 for the tank, about $625 to $700 for the stand, and I'm sure there's going to be some shipping on there. So the idea is we can just go up there, we can get one and get going, you know. And it's frustrating not being able to just say, well, whenever we want one, we'll buy one. Not right now. But that's what we decided on doing, and get that one tank going right quick and go from there. Yeah, with all the ag out here, that particular tank is made by Norwesco, which is a company Jim told me about. I went to their website, and that's their distributor up there in Great Falls. So we shall see. Hi, Terry. How's it going? And so just checking something. Yep. Okay. So that's the basic plan there.
I may be a few minutes late.
If
I get this survey, we're talking high dollar here.
It only has a 30-degree cone on the bottom. You can get 45-degree with the metal stands. My thought would be, in the long run, if we got a plastic tank, 45-degree angle, and then a metal stand for it, and then we can just duplicate the metal stand and buy more tanks, But we shall see what we shall see. They also make larger tanks, but it looks like for a 750-gallon tank, you're probably looking almost, $1,500. I mean, $2,000 instead of the, So it doesn't seem to be much better in terms of dollar per volume. So I don't know. We'll get going. Where's the third leg of this show? Well, he's monitoring it. He has a broke down truck. Now, I offered to drive a whole mile to his house and pick his scraggly butt up, but he didn't want to for some reason. So I don't know. I did what I could. But John, he's watching the thing. I've seen him kick in here. Yeah, there he was just about two minutes ago. Okay, Chris, I resemble that remark. Chris is casting asparagus at me again.
What else is new?
I don't know if he's got a bike or not. It's uphill from his place to mine. It could be a lot. What I say, I've got a truck. I could have gone got him. It has another seat, but oh well. And so I'm not too sure, but I offered. And for those of you who are coming in late, Lauren is in the hospital right now. Looks like he should be getting out in a few days, hopefully without an operation, but it doesn't appear to be life-threatening or anything. Well, Goldstream, it's like you say, it's worth a look. You can find good quartz crystals or amethyst crystals. That can make some money. Yeah, you also need to look if it's claimable. The pegmatites also tend to have rare earths. Chris. So mean. We'll see, Zeoxia. Right now, I think I'm going to be working my butt off. Me and Eva. We're probably going to need, once we get everything smoothed out and figured out and calculated out, probably going to have to hire someone to help out because, hey, Gold, um, because since the mine is that way 60 miles and the ranch is that way 8 miles, it's kind of hard to do both at once. And to put the, yeah, blind dude, hi. Um, yeah, pretty much, Chris. Man, the testicle jokes are hanging around like crazy. Um, and so to close up the mine and then head over there. Now, it might not be as bad once we get a little deeper, get a little more room. We can hang a bunch of stuff on the walls and stuff like that. And um, it may be a lot easier to close it up. But even then, I suspect it's going to be better to mine and have somebody hauling ore. Um, we may need a lot of buckets. Of course, once they get up, to the ranch, you can empty the buckets and bring them back, so to speak. Whether you're processing it or not, you can at least stockpile. And but we will see how everything balances out. Of course you would, Zeoxio. I think we have a shovel with your name on it. Ooh, Terry, nice one. I'll give you a 7 on that one. That was good. Terry says, "No, Chris. He said he's working his butt off next." Yep. But I say once we get things figured out, because I mean I just barely got past the timbering and stuff, and pretty soon we're going to have to start putting in some overhead ground support because the vertical drops from the back to where we're going to be at are going to start getting pretty intense, and you really don't want to be 15 feet underneath a rock that big that falls down. And cool, Zeoxio. Um, but um, so I say we could be mining and then ship it off, and while the other person is processing and getting a new tank of stuff leaching, we could be putting in ground support and mining more ore. Then he comes back, and so it could be one of those things where one person is cycling every other day while we're mining and putting in ground support. We'll just have to see. To some extent, that would work towards the beginning without too much trouble, Chris. Good point. I hadn't thought of it as storage, but it should work for that because they are going to be platforms. And let's say, and there's also going to be chain link hanging on the ribs, so that's always good to hang stuff on. So again, we'll see once we get everything up and running and calibrated, so to speak, tuned up a little bit, calibrated, see how much we're mining here, how much we're processing there, how long does it take to do this, how long does it take to do that. And then we'll figure out the actual plan of attack and whether or not to, get somebody else in the system there. Depends on the quality of the sapphires, Roberts. I think most of the ones up here are reasonably good blue. But anyhow, that's what I got to get started on here pretty quick. I say the plan was Wednesday to start fabricating. We'll see how things are going with Lauren. And Thursday, I'm headed up to Great Falls to get the tank. So it might be Friday before I start fabricating, for all I know. I don't know, but I need to get going. I'm getting all antsy. So we'll have fun. 8-carat blue cuttable sapphire. So that's basically it. Looks like we're our usual group of people. No newbies with questions or anything. If there's anybody with questions, that would be now's a good time to ask. I think Eva will be doing her report in the not too distant future, but yeah.
I'm doing a $15 study, dude.
Why do you guys break shovels trying to muck? Trying to pry too hard on them or something? I mean, I can't hoist that much. Don't have a silver prospect I'm working on right now, Zeoxio. Eva talks a lot about silver on the tinfoil hat report. And Jeff Kablock has some mines up in the Elkhorns that have a lot of silver in them too. Not sure, Chris. But that's, I'm busy working on a gold mine. I don't have a lot of time for other stuff. So, it's kind of by default focusing on gold. So we shall see. Where's Silver Country where you're at, Chris? Over here we have lots of base metal and silver and stuff like that. Around here, John, there's lots of lead, zinc, silver type mines. I don't know if that would be a good idea. Chris is of the opinion that too much oxygen is likely to cause us problems. And so we're focusing on just using hydraulic action. But it wouldn't be too hard to do that either. In the case of, you're going to be using pumps anyway to move some liquids, so it's kind of handy to use it for more than that. But we'll see. Let's see, there it is. Chris saying some is good, but too much may be a problem. Don't know. They say that just using the agitation without aeration seems to work pretty good. Oh, use nitrogen. Oh my goodness. I'd rather use a submersible pump. It's a lot cheaper. I wouldn't expect to see a draft for this war, although if it turns into World War III, it could be. I think, I've got some pretty reliable sources that I'm looking at, and it's like I think you're going to see some dramatic changes in the way people are looking at this war in the next few weeks. No, there's lots of silver out here too, John. Woo-hoo! Yeah, so we have lots of base metal with sulfur mines. I mean, with silver. There's some that are primarily silver too, but around here, it's usually, you know, uh, lead, zinc, silver blend to one extent or another. And it can have a lot of silver, as in hundreds of ounces per ton, but it's talking percents or even over 10% of the base metals, too. I don't know if there's very many mines here that are basically only silver.
I don't remember you seeing any when you were looking at.
Nah, I don't recall it's just silver. Argonaut, I think nickel is pretty hard to find in general. Yeah, you're right, Keith. And I can't change it until after I get out, so I'm sorry. But the nickel is generally a different ore generation process than a lot of the other base metals. So I'm not sure about that. I'm sure if it was a rich enough vein, you can make. Nickel is very dense. I noticed a lot of the mines around here, Chris, had a lot of silver in them. Well, I'm sure you do, Zeoxio. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff up here. We have platinum up here in Montana, and that's pretty unusual. The Stillwater complex. Not sure if there's much nickel with that one. Arsenic nickel sulfide, huh? Wow. That sounds fun to play with. Okay. Hey, Paul, how's it going? It's kind of a slow week, so I don't have much to report. Hey, Mohammed. The nickel and silver minerals are going to tend to concentrate like black sand would. Absolutely. They're denser than the usual stuff. Don't know about nickel, but silver is rarely native silver. But the silver compounds would generally be heavy.
This is America. There is no executive privilege here for presidents. Really?
Yeah, when?
I don't know. Somebody named Raskin, whoever the hell that is.
Yeah. Rhodium's at 20 grand an ounce now, huh? Wow. Yeah, the snow's pretty much gone away here. Right now it's 60 degrees. Sapphires, yeah. Well, your gemstones will also get stuck in your sluices. Yeah, Pat. Sounds like something you'd say.
Dang, I just did good. Woohoo.
Yep.
Okay.
Most of these will concentrate in the sluice. I don't know. I try and get the right microphone each time. Sometimes I do. Sometimes it does weird stuff.
What else is new, huh?
It would be nice if you could change things on the fly, but apparently you can't. Hey, Smoking, how's it going?
I just made $19.
Sweet.
Woohoo.
I finally got it because one decided to get an essay on the annoying blue mud that kept plugging up their sluices. Well, and platinum used to be plugging up the sluices down there in South America, too. It was quite the nuisance.
What a terrible problem.
It was at the time. They had no way of melting it. I mean, 300 years ago, how do you melt something that takes over 3,000 degrees?
You have a point there.
Yeah.
Just saying. I gotta put this thing on. I think I gotta put this thing on.
Yeah. 15 in New Hampshire. Wow, sucks to be you, Alan. Yeah, it's been quite pleasant. That's why I went out there and went fishing twice this week.
And he got me fish.
Yeah. Got her a walleye, and Clara donated a walleye too. And got some big trout.
Okay.
Of course not, Roberts. Okay.
Sorry I'm late, guys. I actually got a high-dollar survey about cancer, and for once, they wanted to hear about my kind. This is so cool. Normally, they only want to hear about the popular cancers, like breast cancer and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and such.
Get a little more light on.
You were building an EV out of the parts from a floor scrubber. Sounds cool. Don't I wish? Yeah, it was good fish, people. Okay, so got an article here that looks fairly interesting. Centerra Gold and Kyrgyzstan closer to solving dispute over Kumtor. Canada's Centerra Gold is closer to settling a dispute triggered by Kyrgyzstan's expropriation of the country's giant Kumtor gold mine in 2021, after the country's ministers backed on Monday to the government's decision to solve the issue. They asked the government to solve something. Gotta wonder about those Canadians. Negotiations on the exact terms of the new agreement are still ongoing, the Toronto-based miner said Monday, adding there was no guarantee of any proposed deal being completed. The gold miner and the Kyrgyz government have clashed over financial and environmental issues related to the mine for years. The standoff took a turn for the worse in May 2021 when the nation took control of the mine, alleging the company was running it in a way that was detrimental to both the environment and nearby communities. Centerra, which has denied all allegations, kicked off arbitration shortly after and sued former director Tengiz Bolkuruk, claiming the dual Canadian and Kyrgyz citizen had secretly cooperated to stage the expropriation. Shocking allegations ensued there. The company had laid out a framework earlier this year for resolving the dispute outside of court. In it, Centerra proposed to receive about 26.1% of the common stock held by local gold refiner Kyrzaltyn JSC. It also said the state should assume all responsibility for the company's 2 Kyrgyz subsidies as well as the giant mine. Kumtor, which accounts for a fifth of the ex-Soviet country's total industrial output, was the largest of Centerra's gold mines, contributing more than 50% of the company's total output. The operation is also crucial to Kyrgyzstan, as it is the country's largest private sector employer, taxpayer, and main foreign investment. Between 1997 and 2020, it produced more than 13.2 million ounces of gold, with last year's output slightly over 556,000 ounces. We shall see what the government does about that. I don't know how well I trust the Kyrgyzstan government, but apparently the Canadians do for some crazy reason. Codelco may partially privatize some assets, executive says. Well, privatization. This is interesting. Chile's Codelco, the world's largest copper producer, is preparing to offer the market some non-core exploration assets, signaling a rare privatization for the state-owned mining firm, a senior executive said on Monday. Patricio Vergara, vice president of mining resources and development at Codelco, said the hived-off assets could become eventual partnerships, which would mark a new model for the firm in Chile. We could make some kind of association with those companies that are interested in investing in joint development, Vergara said during a presentation at the Crucesco World Copper Conference. Vergara did not give technical details on the projects or a time frame for the company's plan to offer the assets. The executives said the firm's nascent lithium mining push was advancing at a slightly slower pace than expected. Chile is the world's second largest producer of the ultralight battery metal that is key for global electric vehicle markets. We've seen permitting and approval times have been a bit longer than we thought. There have been higher drilling costs. In February, Codelco said it would start drilling in the Salar de Maricunga by late March, and this would last about 10 months. Well, nice to see somebody moving toward privatization instead of away from it. You know, Mohammed, there are all kinds of reasons that mining permits are made difficult to attain. Not very many of them are valid. What we see a lot in the US anyway is you see a lot of regulatory jihad, as we call it, and you also see a lot of lawfare where environmental groups from entirely different states and areas will get money from non governmental organizations just so they can sue mining companies to stop permits. They don't live in the state. They have no vested interest in the state. They don't care what's going on. And no sooner does a mining company get rid of one lawsuit when another lawsuit happens, and then another and another. If you want examples of that, look up what's going on with Rosemont Copper down in Tucson, Arizona. I think they're entering year 12 of their project. Almost a half after getting the permits, almost a $500 million in the hole and still counting, and they're still being sued and they still have not even broken ground. Okay, that's how bad it is. It's absolutely ridiculous. It is a case where they have a not in my backyard attitude. We call it NIMBY, not in my backyard. We're seeing this all around the US in a lot of businesses. A certain sector of our population, who are all largely delusional psychopaths, but that's another story, a certain sector of our population is perfectly happy to drive electric vehicles as long as the rare earths used to build those vehicles come from third world countries where miners are severely exploited, safety protocols and environmental protocols are pretty much non existent. We want the goodies, but we don't want the dirty stuff in our backyard. Now, naturally, I'm not one of those people, but we have a lot of NIMBYs in this country. There are plenty of people who want to have all the toys. But the things that make those toys have to be cheap, first of all. Well, if you want good labor conditions in the US, you're not going to be getting cheap stuff, okay? Which means all that labor gets offshored to places where $2 a day is good money. Or there's convict labor, or there's conscript labor, or there's flat out slave labor, okay? The same thing happens in mining. We want all the benefits of metals and all of the cool stuff that you can build with these materials, but nobody wants to have a mine in their backyard because it lowers property values. So instead of us mining what cobalt we do have in the United States, that gets mined in China and South Africa and elsewhere in absolutely horrific conditions, both in terms of miner safety and in terms of environment, so that we can have the cobalt and the other rare earths to build our green stuff, which is not green. Speaking of green stuff, I do notice that the Canadians last week decided that they were going to put out a whole bunch of grants and a whole framework for green energy. And they conveniently left out their entire nuclear power energy. Now, folks, nuclear power is about the greenest thing you can get. It is far greener than the eco crucifixes that they call wind turbines. Far, far greener than solar panels. But no, because of Chernobyl and because of Fukushima and because of 3 Mile Island, thou shalt not have a nuclear power plant anywhere within 500 miles of you or you will die next Tuesday. I mean, that's just how ridiculous they are. Okay? I mean, that, and yes, war is a racket. I agree. We all know war is a racket. There's one going on right now that is absolutely a racket. Not gonna go there. Yeah, Ed. Vagrants and labor refuseniks, of which we have quite a few these days for some bizarre reason. Gold price falls 1% as higher dollar and yields curtail safe haven demand. This just goes to show you people's psychotic attitudes about fiat versus sound money, which we're going to get into in a minute here. But this is just interesting. Gold prices slumped on Monday as both the US dollar and Treasury yields strengthened, sapping demand for the safe haven asset after last week's gain. Gold fell 1.1% to 1935.48 an ounce by 11:45 a.m. Eastern, erasing most of the gains from the last two sessions. U.S. gold futures were down 1% to $1935 an ounce in New York. Meanwhile, both the dollar index and the U.S. bonds yield rose, driven by expectations that the Federal Reserve will lead an aggressive wave of global central bank tightening. Yeah, aggressive wave. 1/4 point at a time. Yeah, so aggressive. The 10-year Treasury yields earlier moved past 2.5%, above a technical trend line that has served as a ceiling since the late 1980s and are now at their highest since April 2019. Gee, I wonder if that's because nobody wants to buy them when inflation is so high that you're already losing money on them. Okay, we'll get to that too. Wall Street banks increasingly expect the Fed to raise interest rates more aggressively than policymakers are projecting, with Citigroup economists now seeing 4 straight half-point moves amid persistent inflation. Wow, half-point moves. Be still, my beating heart. Money market traders see 4 smaller increases by the European Central Bank within a year. Weaker gold prices can be attributed to the US dollar, which is continuing to appreciate. Oh my God. That anybody could say that with a straight face. Yeah, right.
You can.
And on the other hand, bond yields are climbing further, Daniel Breisman, an analyst at Commerzbank AG, told Bloomberg. So a banker was able to tell Bloomberg with a straight face that the dollar is appreciating. You know, I think bankers may be even sketchier than lawyers. That's kind of scary there. Still, bullion is up almost 6% this year as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues to bolster demand for safe havens. Holdings in exchange traded funds backed by the metal rose for a 10th straight week. Jim Wyckoff, senior analyst at Kitco, told Reuters he does not see a serious downside price pressure for any of the metal markets in the near term because of inflation worries. Wow. I actually agree with him on that. Anytime we have inflationary pressures like we're seeing now, history shows the metals markets have been sought after, and I suspect that's going to continue to be the case, he added. One can only hope, you know. True, nuclear is the only waste that lasts thousands to 10,000s of years, Kodak. However, they now have 4th or 5th generation, I believe it's thorium reactors, that actually use nuclear waste from earlier reactors. Yes, Bear?
According to an article I read decades ago in Scientific American,
He read an article.
The high-level nuclear waste decays to where it is no more dangerous than the uranium ore from which it was mined in about 750 years.
Yeah.
That same ore has been sitting there for billions of years. So seems completely uncontained, by the way. So it seems that it will decay to a reasonably safe level in a reasonable period of time.
Besides the fact that they now make nuclear reactors that can run on it. Now, nuclear reactors that can run on previous nuclear waste sounds like a really good idea to me. Just saying. And they produce a whole lot less actual waste that we're currently not getting rid of.
A couple of cubic meters of nuclear waste per year versus 500,000 tons of fly ash per year, plus carbon dioxide from a coal plant.
Yeah, I know, Patrick. He read an article.
I've read numerous articles.
Wow, that's kind of, you mean articles that were not in a magazine that has a bunny hidden on the cover somewhere? Hold up, dude. Yeah, asbestos is safe as long as you don't tamper with it. This is quite true. It's actually, the crystalline forms are really, really pretty stuff. They got a lot around Libby, Montana, up where that vermiculite mine was. LME nickel price limps back, but tensions are not going away. Really now? Tensions are not going away. Gee, I wonder why. And there is a disclaimer on this article. This is interesting. The opinions expressed here are those of the author, Andy Home, a columnist for Reuters. I wonder if that means that mining.com does not agree, or whether mining.com does agree, but they don't want to get in trouble. London Metal Exchange 3-month nickel is currently trading at $35,150 per ton. This in itself is something of an achievement for the exchange. It's not been easy restarting the London nickel market after its March 8th breakdown and ensuing week-long suspension. Since trading resumed on March 16th, we've had 4 limit down days and 2 limit up days, briefly interrupted by a day of almost normal trading on March 22nd. How do you have almost normal trading when they now have price controls and limits and things, and so people can't actually do what they want to do? Well, just, inquiring minds want to know here.
Emphasis on almost.
Official and closing prices have been declared disruption events 6 times. Disruption events, huh? The LME, new to price limits, has been learning as it goes. It's had to incrementally widen nickel's price band from 5 to 15%, and on Thursday banned the placing of orders outside of the limits to stop traders gaming the system. It seems to be working. Nickel traded a wide $34,500 to $40,700 range on Friday morning, but held within the lower limit of $31,650 and the upper limit of $42,820 per ton. Whether such orderly conduct will last the full day remains to be seen. The nickel market is going to remain unruly until there's a resolution of the underlying causes of the breakdown. This nickel crisis was triggered by the size of short positions, many of them structured in over-the-counter shadows held by Chinese steel and nickel giant Tsingshan Group Holding. Tsingshan has a standstill agreement on those positions with a group of banks, meaning they won't be closed out or margined while a standby liquidity facility is negotiated. They will probably be rolled forward to allow a phased reduction, but while they exist, they have the potential to be disruptive. Nor is Tsingshan the only player with a short position on the LME. Really? Hedge short positions are common price offset strategies among producers, and if they're ferronickel or nickel sulfate producers, they're in the same boat as the Chinese company with no option of delivering their product against LME's high specification nickel contract. The LME's future banding report shows 4 significant short positions sitting on the April 3rd, Wednesday prompt date, including a big one equivalent to 30 to 40% of open interest. Wow, that is a big one. There are also 4 sitting on both the May and June dates. Given LME nickel trading was below $25,000 per ton at the start of the month, it's likely those short position holders will also be feeling the margin pain and looking to reduce or exit as soon as they can. On the other side of the ledger sits a dominant long position controlling between 40 and 50% of available LME stocks. The positioning landscape suggests a suspension but no resolution of the bull-bear clash that helped generate the market meltdown. Nor has much changed in the underlying dynamics that propelled the price so high before suspension. LME warehouse stocks have continued sliding. True, there's been a wholesale reshuffle of canceled metal back onto LME warrant, with open tonnage now at 55,488 tons, compared with an early March low of 36,522. But the headline figure has fallen another 6,600 tons so far this month, and its 72,924 tons is the lowest it's been since December 2019. The electric vehicle battery sector's demand for the high-grade Class 1 nickel in LME warehouses continues unabated. Questions around the status of Russian supply in the wake of the invasion of Ukraine loom ever larger. Norilsk nickel, which accounts for around 17% of global Class 1 metal supply, has not been sanctioned. Interesting. More proof sanctions are window dressing. But trapped in the Arctic North, the company's prime shipping route is to Europe. The Netherlands is the largest volume destination for Russian nickel exports, accounting for 60 to 70% of all shipments in 2019-2020. Most of the balance, interestingly, was exported to Switzerland, according to ITC's trade figures. Interesting. Self-sanctioned by banks, trade houses, and logistics companies is likely to generate a lot of friction in what was previously a smooth physical flow of metal. This is particularly problematic for the LME, given only Class 1 nickel, such as that produced by Norilsk, is deliverable against its contract. Shorts looking to effect physical delivery against their LME positions may struggle to access the liquidity pool of Russian metal that is stored in Rotterdam. What its early German discoverers nicknamed the devil's metal is going to remain devilishly tricky to trade given the continued supply uncertainty caused by what Russia terms its special military operation, quote unquote. The overriding short-term market theme will be risk reduction, with eye-watering margins likely to deter all but the most committed. That, however, may not do anything to moderate price volatility if liquidity is squeezed out of the market. It's worth noting the Shanghai Futures Exchange nickel contract has traded enough hours to allow a wholesale rush for the exit door. Market open interest has collapsed from 265,736 contracts at the start of March to a current 118,287. Volatility, if anything, has only increased, the most active contract hitting its upper 20% limit on Friday morning. Shanghai registered stocks remain low at 7,415 tons, and the forward curve is still heavily backwardated. The squeeze on Class 1 metal in the Chinese market predates this year's run on LME stocks, as it shows no sign of being over anytime soon. Low stocks and falling liquidity may be a harbinger of what the LME market will look like in a couple of months' time. Before then, though, there is still the unresolved issue of Tsingshan's big shorts to be navigated. Very, very interesting. That is very interesting. And yeah, there's gold and silver in some beaches. I certainly would like to get myself up to Nome one of these days, you know. There may be gold somewhere in New Jersey. Bear would know that. I wouldn't.
Not that I've heard of. Georgia, New England.
Now, this person says above Lake Hapakong, there is alluvial placers that can be found, which is interesting. I do believe we're talking about New Jersey, which is a very strange place as a general rule. Anyway, no offense to people who like New Jersey. I just find it very strange. They call it the Garden State, and I have seen very few gardens in the part that you actually normally see. I know that they are there, okay? I have heard that there are some real breadbasket areas, but one has to wonder where the gardens actually are. Currency wars center on Russia's gold. In response to Russia's war on Ukraine, the US and G7 countries have launched a currency war against the Kremlin. Sanctions imposed on the Russian central bank have effectively blacklisted the country from the US dollar-dominated global financial system. Now the Biden administration is attempting to prevent Russia from using gold as an alternative medium of exchange. Really now? Last week, the Treasury Department declared U.S. persons are prohibited from engaging in any transaction, including gold-related transactions, involving the Central Bank of the Russian Federation, the National Wealth Fund of the Russian Federation, or the Ministry of Finance of the Russian Federation. In recent years, Russia has significantly increased its gold reserves. It currently possesses the fifth largest stockpile in the world, worth an estimated $140 billion. U.S. officials want to prevent Russia from selling gold in order to fund its war machine, but Russian officials seem more inclined to take gold in lieu of dollars as payment in international trade. I hope they're smart enough to take it physical delivered, and I'm sure they are. Russia declared that unfriendly countries must now pay for Russian gas and other products in rubles or gold, a move that boosted the value of the beleaguered currency. Moscow is even considering adopting Bitcoin as an alternative means of payment in international trade, according to reports. If they want to buy, let them either in hard currency, and this is gold for us, or pay as is convenient for us. This is the national currency, Russian rubles, said Pavel Zavalny, chairman of the Russian Duma Committee on Energy. Zavalny is also urging China to de-dollarize and switch to settlements in gold, rubles, or yuan. China, India, and the Far East are pivotal players in the global currency war. If they opt out of the increasingly expansive U.S. sanctions regime, a new bipolar monetary order could emerge. Global confidence in the Federal Reserve note dollar as world reserve currency is rapidly eroding. You think? No shit, Sherlock. If the U.S. can suddenly declare that it's freezing the dollar assets of a major foreign central bank and banning their gold from circulation, a lot of other countries will be worried they might be next to get blacklisted. They'll naturally want to have a plan B in place. It's impossible to predict exactly how the erupting currency wars will reshape the global monetary system. One possibility is gold will play a much more prominent role than before. Ever since the U.S. rescinded gold convertibility in 1971, temporarily, by the way, the fiat dollar standard has been enforced, backed implicitly by oil and the promise of Saudi Arabia and other OPEC producers to accept dollars as payment. The petrodollar is now at risk of losing its hegemony. While the U.S. has historically been able to use its financial and military might to keep Middle Eastern countries in line, it may be overplaying its hand in trying to force the entire world to shun Russia. As with waging any war, however justified it may be, there will be blowback. The overt weaponization of the financial system against Russia will result in counterattacks directed at the Federal Reserve note. A currency's value cannot be maintained through force alone. Plenty of dictatorships throughout history have gone down the economic ruinous path of hyperinflation. America's recent inflation spike may be an ominous sign of what's to come. This is a good point. We've been discussing this on Wall Street Silver off and on because it has been noted that when I talk to people, I tend to say that I am discussing either fiat or real money. Real money being constitutional coinage, as in gold and silver. And in case you're wondering, currently nickels are worth almost 10 cents a piece, and pre 82 pennies are worth about 3.5 cents a piece. So, we could kind of make a case that the modern coinage is also real money at the moment. Though you can't melt it down, it is a felony. Remember this. Besides, it's really not that easy. Not that I would know. I would know nothing about this. I'm convinced there's a YouTube video that says it's really not that easy. And it isn't one of ours. Okay? And people say to me, well, why do you call the pretty pieces of paper fiat and the silver real money? Because they are. Right now, there is more faith in the dollar bill for less justification than I've ever seen attached to any god ever by anyone other than the most ridiculous religious cults, okay? There is zero reason at this moment in time. There has been zero reason for decades for there to be this much faith in a dollar bill as there is now. There's more religion behind this than anything else, and it's really weird to see people worshiping fiat and beginning to transfer that allegiance to digital currencies, which are even worse than fiat. Real money is a store of wealth. Real money has an intrinsic value, not just the dollar value that is on the market, which in the case of silver is one of the most manipulated markets in the world, but it has an intrinsic value. Land has an intrinsic value, but it's very hard to carry around a piece of land. Oil has something of an intrinsic value, but it's consumable. Food has a consumable commodity value, and you can speculate in food, which is not a bad idea in an inflationary environment, by the way. Those of us who keep really long-term pantries are maintaining the lowest prevailing prices on our groceries. But gold and silver represent actual material wealth. Fiat, on the other hand, is a debt instrument. If you actually read the US Debt Clock website, and I highly recommend everybody read and click on the little information thingies and see what each thing means. If you read the US Debt Clock website, those pretty pieces of paper with dead people on them that they're issuing like candy and by the trillions, and they're about to approve another $1.5 trillion bill over there in DC, in the insane asylum that is our capital, are actually debt instruments. What they are saying there is that bill is backed by the faith and credit of the American people. It's no longer backed by the faith and credit of a big pile of gold and silver in Fort Knox. Now, it should be noted in the middle of all this, our mint, along with the Mint of Perth and a few other mints in the world, our mint is not going to be releasing Morgan and Peace dollars this year. This year, there will be no Morgan dollars, and there will be no Peace dollars. Why will there be no Morgan and Peace dollars when it is constitutionally required? Well, this is really kind of hilarious, even from a government incompetence point of view. Our feral government, in their infinite wisdom, mandated that every year West Point and the mints must put out real coinage just to satisfy that pesky little thing called the Constitution, Morgan and Peace dollars, which actually some court cases have said can be used as legal tender for debts public and private, just so you know. They also said that the mint can only pay the spot price for this metal, and there are very strict restrictions on how much they can pay. They're not allowed to pay extra to get their hands on the planchets they need to stamp these coins. So the mint threw up their hands last week or a couple of weeks ago now, and they actually admitted, they said, well, hey, we can't comply with the law because we can't get the planchets at the price we're allowed to pay right now. So we can either violate the law and buy the planchets at above their melt value or above their spot value, or we cannot print, which also we cannot stamp coins, which also violates the law. So what are you gonna do? Well, somehow this fact completely escaped the attention of the mainstream media. It's completely escaped the attention of our Congress. Of course, our Congress is too busy giving billions of dollars to Ukraine and not defending our borders and driving up prices and being absolutely ridiculous. It has flown entirely under the radar that they are now in direct violation of their rules, several laws, and our Constitution. But what else is new? I mean, these guys stopped paying attention to the Constitution long before I was born, apparently. But it is emblematic of the physical shortage at the moment which is caused by a myriad of things, that the same thing is happening in other mints. Other mints are finding it difficult to get planchets. They can't get those blank coins to stamp because they don't have the price flexibility that a private mint does. So this year, there will be no beautiful ladies coming out of West Point, which really totally sucks, you know? In return, we will just have to buy 1 ounce rounds that would have been our constitutional coinage that are produced by private mints all over the country, and there are many, many of them. There has been a true explosion in the forms of bullion art that can be found out and about in the wild now. It is stunning and beautiful to see. You know, it really is. But this business of fiat versus money is something that we all need to begin to emphasize at every opportunity because our fiat dollar is like the emperor that has no clothes. The only reason anybody still uses this thing for anything other than toilet paper, and by the way, they don't really burn as well as they do in the movies, just so you know. The only reason anybody still uses it is convention and a blind trust. We now have our treasury sending out treasury notes, debt at 2.5% interest. This is laughable for several reasons. First of all, nobody's buying them. Our treasury has been buying them, and our treasury has been buying mortgage instruments as well for some bizarre reason, okay? Nobody's buying them. And they have a negative profit. Even the federal government is saying our inflation's running 8%, 9, maybe 8, maybe 7. They're trying to fudge the numbers, but they won't be able to for much longer. Why am I going to loan you money at 2.5% interest when your money is running at 9% inflation? The very fact that anybody other than our federal government would buy these pieces of trash is staggering. Because ostensibly, you buy an investment to make a profit. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe the objective here when you buy a stock or a bond or a mortgage instrument is to make a profit. Now, how the hell do you make a profit when you're getting less interest than the money is losing in value? I don't know. Color me blonde, color me female, color me whatever, but that don't make no sense to me. Most of this does not make sense to me at the moment anyway. As we have seen, this was a fairly ridiculous week in the news. What else is new? Finally, because Lord Malarkey made a pronouncement from the albino McMansion and completely disgraced himself and looked like a flaming idiot in front of all of Europe, but what else is new? People are beginning to wake up to the fact that there may be food shortages this year. Well, it's nice to see people waking up to this. It's not quite too little too late, but we're getting there, you know. And gas prices went up again here in our little corner of Montana. Premium prices are going through the roof, and our local coin shop dealer said that his wholesalers just raised their premium and their order limits, their order minimums for him recently, and increased delivery times. More and more people are accepting the fact that we should be seeing in a sane world $50 gold and $2,200, $50 silver and $2,200 gold by the end of this year. I think it may even go higher than that myself. But we still have to look at mining economics because there's an interesting thing going on in mining economics on the small scale right now. A lot of mines are discovering with the increased cost in equipment, the increased cost in labor, the increased cost in fuel, the increased cost in energy, that ore body that was an ore body last year at $30 or $28 or $26 or whatever won't be an ore body now until it hits 40 or 45 because an ore body is a body of pretty rocks that can be mined at a profit. So at the same time, we're seeing more people trying to get exploration permits and not being able to get them. More people trying to get operating permits and not being able to get them because they actually have good ore bodies. We're also seeing more people that had an ore body last year at $18 an ounce that do not have an ore body now at 25 because of inflation. So this is going to cause a lot of upheaval in the physical metals. And it's going to be translated into a lot of things that you wouldn't normally think about. I mean, silver has a great deal of industrial application attached to it. I am far more a silver fan than a gold fan, and everybody around here knows that because, quite frankly, it's a lot easier to buy groceries or pay for car repairs or something with some silver dollars and some silver quarters than it is with Panda or the other gold coins that you typically see because the United States did not mint that many gold coins. I mean, it's just more practical for small purchases. Gold is more practical for big purchases. You should have both in your portfolio. You should have the classic 16-to-1 ratio, 16 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold. Works great, works fine, works wonderful. That way you can buy a whole cow, or you can buy a car, or you can buy a truck, or you can buy a piece of mining equipment, or you can buy a sawmill. And you can also go down to the local farmer's market and buy yourself some vegetables and get your new car repaired and get it tuned up. You know, just things to look at here because we need to get people participating in a parallel economy. Right now, we have already gone over the cliff and we're just kind of sailing through space in this nice, lovely little devolutionary arc of some kind that's going to be very, very, very messy because when economies finally crash, sometimes you're lucky and you get a slow motion crash that goes over a period of years or even decades. That's what happened in the Roman Empire. Other times, you're not so lucky. You wake up one Monday morning and your dearly beloved federal government announces, well, we're doing a currency revaluation. Everybody take your fiat down to the bank and we're going to issue you brand new fiat. It is cool. It is great. It is wonderful. It has even more zeros than it used to. Score. That's the way this can go down. We need to get more people thinking of fiat as what it is, an accounting tool that happens to be pretty convenient and not too bad looking unless you count the modern monopoly money they're making now. And thinking of precious metals, metals in general, fungible commodities, disposable commodities, durable commodities as an accumulation of wealth, as money, not fiat. Money and fiat are two different things, people. I've had to explain this to so many people in the last couple of weeks because somewhere along the line, and I do believe it started happening right around 1970, maybe around 1969, but somewhere right around the time we got rid of silver certificates and we started getting Federal Reserve notes, They stopped using the word fiat at all. The only time the combined government and the media moguls and talking heads and pundits used the word fiat was in a pejorative manner, referring to other people's stuff, because other people's stuff is obviously inferior to our stuff. Our stuff is either currency or money. Well, those bills are not money, okay? Those bills are a freaking debt instrument. They're not a wealth instrument, they're a debt instrument, okay? That's simply all they are. When you want to control people's perception of reality, one of the first steps is controlling language and controlling the information stream. Get everybody in the information stream using the same buzzwords, the same language, and all of a sudden a word has a new or corollary definition different from its original definitions. Like the word diet, for instance. The word diet used to mean how one eats daily or habitually. So, like, you eat the standard American diet, you eat the keto diet, like me, because it is obviously superior. You eat a vegetarian diet, you eat a vegan diet. Well, then the dieting industry got into the deal. And now the word diet is most commonly framed around the perception that this is a temporary state of caloric deprivation that you do, and you'll magically absorb by osmosis while doing this and paying somebody to help you do it, like Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig for those little funny meals they have. You will absorb by osmosis healthy eating tips and tricks, and then you can go back to eating the food you love. Well, guess what? If the food you love is what got you fat in the first place, then you may have a problem because none of these diet programs actually teach you anything useful. They're designed to create yo yo dieting. They're designed to get you so you do great on their plan and then you get off their plan and then you gain your weight back and then you need to go on their plan again. When you use the word diet properly in a conversation with somebody, 99.9% of the time, they will mistake your meaning and they'll ask you why you're trying to lose weight. You're already a healthy weight if you happen to be me. And it's like, no, I'm not losing weight. I am maintaining weight. I eat a keto diet day in and day out, forever and ever, period, end of story, and been doing it for over 3 years. I am not restricting calories, people. This is the problem that we have with money, with diet, with a lot of other words, is that frankly delusional and insane people, plus some exploitative asshats, have figured out how easy it is to change the language, to change the meaning of a word, since they control the information stream. And that is something that we all need to fight. And we need to also fight. Hmm, we need to fight the perception that silver is not money by actually using it as money. It is far, far beyond time for all of us to work on developing a parallel economy in our little corner of the world. Because our current economy, we may get lucky. We may drift on for another decade or so with it just getting progressively worse and sucking more and more rocks along the way here. Because this really sucks rocks already. But on the other hand, we could wake up next Tuesday and be told, well, you're getting an extra 0 or 3 on your fiat. And by the way, we're rolling out digital currency so that we can save trees by not planting fiat, and not printing fiat. It's all going to be digital now. And that's going to be the end of a whole lot of things. Bye.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Things are getting interesting. There was a real interesting article at the Conservative Treehouse yesterday. Sorry, Adam. Better to be depressed than crushed.
Well, sorry, Adam. Life happens to suck rocks at the moment.
Yep.
Dude.
Just remember, whenever there's a big change, somebody comes out on top. The people who are prepared come out on top. But anyhow, they had an interesting article. It had links that I did not follow because the video evidence of certain things, the description itself was disturbing enough. What's going on in Ukraine? Let's just say it's not exactly what we were being told. Okay.
As if our federal government ever tells us the truth about anything.
Yep.
Those people tell me it's a sunny day, I'm grabbing my umbrella.
It's interesting, even in talking with my brother, we've been in a situation where for years now, we've been observing certain media, politicians like this, telling us lies. I won't accuse anyone in particular, but some people are just completely and utterly untrustworthy, and yet we're supposed to suddenly trust them on the next subject that suddenly popped up. Argonaut says, "Great job, Keith. Should be interesting to see how you interpret pissed off. Work it in sometime, Eva." She's been informed. This could get interesting next week. But anyhow.
I didn't see how you interpreted peed off.
Because you never said it.
Okay. I shall make sure I know what we'll do. Well, now I just got to find out. Move it. Okay. An experiment in the name of science. People, I am really, really pissed off at our federal government. You didn't do it high enough to show on the screen.
Well, when you're pissed off, you don't get high.
No, when I'm pissed off, I get low.
Sorry, Paul. It's been a long day. Anyhow, so I say it. Just the description was disturbing enough.
What's funny is your brother, who should have no reason at all to trust these people, trust them.
I don't know if he trusts them. It's just, it's so hard for a person to go against a relatively unanimous expressed opinion by supposedly authoritative sources, especially when you don't have truly authoritative sources saying something different. And so you just have to look at the...
This speaks of a lack of discipline and a lack of thinking.
You have to look at the behavior and interpret certain more nuanced issues. For example, if all of a sudden all the sources start using the same phrase, why? why did they all start using the same phrase, not just variations of the same concept? It's big, it's gigantic, it's larger than usual, it's whatever. No, it's like it's all gigantic. Everyone is using say gigantic, unprecedented, whatever.
Most of it is not.
And yeah, there's very little that's truly unprecedented in human history. But it's been fascinating to me to watch over the last couple of years some of this, and you look at the behavior of these people and see how one thing that's interesting is they're so intolerant of criticism. That's relatively new. Nobody used to like it, but now it's like, no, if you disagree with us, you have to lose your job. You have to be shut down. You have to be punished.
You should be arrested.
Or in the case of Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard, they should be arrested, okay, because they have a different opinion. And especially Tulsi Gabbard, her opinion didn't seem to be extreme. Tucker went a lot further in his assertions, but say these kinds of behaviors make me very suspicious of what's going on, and so right then I go, okay, I'm going to hold back on believing anything until I get some other sources. And then you start getting these bits and drabs, and coming from a wide variety of sources, they seem to add up to the same picture. That tends to let me believe, okay, this may be a valid possibility. And I say, when it comes both to certain medical situations over the last couple of years, and this whole situation in Eastern Europe now, I note certain behaviors that go, okay, my BS meter is pegged.
Oh. Speaking of certain medical situations, I got back my DEXA scan results. Improved bone density.
Yes, she's doing better. She also had a PET scan last week. They're looking to see if there's any undetected cancer anywhere, and we haven't got the results back, but we're hopeful on that. But anyhow, she seems to be doing pretty well, and we're going to try, keeping her busy, especially eye handling, and if keeping her busy, and I don't have to do as much. But we're going to see if she can't get conditioned to the point where she can pick up a 50-pound bucket of ore and just, I say, get it off of the rope and set it on the side there, stack them up. And she should be able to shovel at 500 pounds an hour without too much trouble. It's, that's 105-pound shovelfuls and 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1000. It's about every, call it 5 seconds. That's 20 per minute. So it only takes 5 minutes of shoveling per hour.
12 per minute at 5 seconds apiece, Bear.
Oh, I'm still up north, Billy.
Staying up north. Arizona sucks rocks.
Yep. Yeah, I went fishing this week, Adam. I went over here to Spring Meadow Lake, caught 3 trout, and Eva likes the smaller ones, so I brought her one home like this. And then yesterday, I went out to Hauser Dam, and I caught like 4 or 5 trout like that. No joke. And 1 walleye. And the walleye tasted good. First walleye I've ever caught, and it was pretty good. So, yeah. And I'm planning on staying up here, Billy. Um, First of all, this summer I am booked, man. I've got a big project up here that I'm going to be pushing it to the limit. Um, no matter what we're doing, we're going to try and do as much as we can. Therefore, uh, I got pictures, but I guess I'll just have to post it next week. I was going to this week, but because of the um, because of Lauren's situation, I didn't. And so that Clara actually took the pictures, and so uh, I've got one in my email, but I didn't bother to get it up on time.
I had walleye. It was good.
Thank you, Billy. Um, if you're ever up here, let me know. We'll see about maybe getting together. But say this season until we get closed down this winter, be working as hard as we can to get as much accomplished as possible. And we would like to process in excess of 50 tons of ore. We shall see how it all goes, but we are planning on putting forth a very uh, concerted effort to maximize everything this summer and make it pretty interesting. We may need to build a bigger or a separate facility to process too. Terry, I don't know if they couldn't foresee it or they just didn't think it was likely. I mean, it's been 200 and some years before it happened. You know, statistically, that's fairly rare. I must admit, it's pretty amazing. That's okay, Mr. Virtue. I like Eva too. Uh, um, so, anyhow, um, say in the next couple of weeks, should get the student Roth up and running with a vibratory feeder and screen. Should get the agitation tank working, back up and running the leach pad and stuff, and running through the ore that we have stockpiled out at the ranch. I don't know, Adam. I think they looked in history. You look back in history, and moral depravity is a fairly common situation.
It's a fairly common sign of a devolving society.
Yeah, I say it. These things happen, and I just hope we can turn it around. But if not, we just have to survive and rebuild on the other side. I'm just not the kind to lay down and give up, even when sometimes that might be the smart thing. I tend to beat my head against the wall until the wall caves in. Sometimes it's pretty painful. I usually knock the wall down. So anyhow, that's what's going on next week. Say Lauren's sick right now, so we'll see how much fabrication and stuff we can get going. Shouldn't take, but I'm thinking one good day of fab, and we should have the modification for the student Roth. Then the tricky part is going to be moving the student Roth because where it's at, it's kind of hard to get to, and we don't have uh, much in the way of equipment to move it with over there. And well, thank you, Paul. Um, and get it moved into a better position. Um, I could theoretically use it where it's at, but it would be terribly inconvenient. So we'll probably go to the trouble of getting it moved around. Yeah, Terry, there's a lot of it going around right now. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, thank you, Billy. Let me know how that RC1 works. It's a totally different methodology than a lot of other crushers. As far as I know, it basically slings it at the outer ring, and be interested to know what the particle size distribution was in it. Um, Never hurts to learn something new about something new. Any questions, anybody? I'm pretty sure you're getting bored of listening to me yammer on here. So there's got to be somebody's got a question somewhere, somehow, some way. And but as I say, that's the evil plan. I would think so, Kodak. I haven't tried doing it. My thought was it probably wouldn't get a really fine grind. It'd probably work really well on placer. If you had like a cemented placer that you wanted to blow apart, that might work pretty efficiently. With hard rock, where you're going for a fine grind, I just have a feeling it wouldn't be terribly efficient. We'll see how this Stutenroth works with recirculation and screening. That'll be an interesting thing to try out and actually measure once we got things rolling and see what the real throughput is. Never trust a manufacturer's throughput numbers for two reasons. Number one, they tend to be optimistic. Number two, it's all ore dependent. Any reason you can't do both, Billy? Because if the dump is running good grade, it's a lot easier to mine. But if the vein is running a lot better grade, then that might be the way to go. Robert's gas is just going to keep going up for a while. It's called inflation. The price of oil went down a little bit today, so that's good. You bet, Paul. Have a good sleep. Yeah, welder and cutting torch. Plasma cutters are nice, but they're so damned expensive. And they don't use consumables like a torch does. Leave a cleaner cut. They're not quite as versatile, though. You can do things with a torch you can't do with a plasma cutter. Yeah, I say you go through gas pretty fast with a torch. Yeah, Roberts, but it's again, as consumables go, it's fairly modest compared to the gas on a torch, and the tips on a oxyacetylene torch, they can get messed up pretty too. And say it's just not nearly as high a consumable. Every tip will get worn out. Whether it's a MIG tip or a torch tip or whatever, they all get messed up after a while. Second reason for caution with manufacturing numbers, it's all ore dependent. Again, for example, this dredge will move 10 cubic yards an hour of what? 8-inch cobbles or sand? Sand and pea gravel. In terms of a crusher, if it's easy material to crush, it'll go a lot faster. My RC46, you get really hard quartz, it's hard for the jaws to actually get a bite on it and crush it. And so it tends to just kind of do this. Well, that's obviously not much throughput. It's a lot of wear on the jaws too. But I say, it is so ore dependent that you could have the exact same machine and have easily a factor of 3 difference in throughput purely because of the ore you're putting through it. I agree, Roberts. And almost none of it will live up to the numbers because those are optimum numbers. It's kind of like under ideal conditions, it can move this much. Well, you're never in ideal conditions. The question is, how much worse is it than ideal conditions? I'm really curious how good the throughputs were in a stamp mill. You know, that's I think a rolls crusher would do very similar to what a stamp mill is, but a lot more energy efficient and a lot higher throughput per cost. But I don't know. But that's why you can never tell just by looking at the nameplate. When you have a big mine and they're designing their mill, they do a lot of testing of the ore before they decide what the throughput is likely to be. Adam, there is no rule of thumb. Arsenopyrite ores tend to be pretty high in gold, but they're a pain to work with, and it tends to be really fine gold. And I have seen 40 ounces to the ton and some quartz that just look like gray quartz. And I've seen 40 ounces to the ton and some stuff that looked pretty good. It's really, really variable. Yeah, Roberts, they will always give you that because they're trying to compete with other people too. And so they're going to give you your maximum. And sometimes I think they're just lying anyway. Um, there was one particular manufacturer that stated that their particular device would do 1,000 pounds an hour. And yet, if you looked at the video on the internet, somebody was feeding it with a spoon. I don't know about you, but I think if I was feeding something with a spoon, I'd have to be moving pretty damn fast to get 1,000 pounds an hour. So I mean, you could tell right away. Nope, that ain't anywhere close. So it's just going to be testing. What you try and do, if at all possible, is test before you buy. Could you turn that down a bit, little one? The manufacturer will usually have a thing where they will allow you to test their equipment. If sometimes you have to pay them, and that's reasonable. Pay them $100 an hour or something to bring some more by and check it out. If they won't, you'd be very suspicious right there, and you might have to find someone else that's got one of those machines and ask them. What kind of grinder do I use to crush quartz? It depends on your throughput, your budget, and the particular ore. In our case, I'm using a Keen RC46 crusher. It's a jaw over rolls. I've got the rolls opened up to where they're not getting anywhere. They're not doing anything. I'm just using the jaw crusher, and then I'm running it into an impact mill. Prior to now, I've been using my own design impact mill, which is self-classifying. Does about 100 pounds an hour, running probably 80% passing 60 mesh or better. And we're going to be switching to a Stutenroth 2-ton per hour impact mill with no internal classification. So we'll see what happens there. Billy, you just need to test it. Make some concentrates and then smelt some down. Also, you can try roasting the sulfides and then regrinding them and then doing a gravity separation. In some cases, that'll work out quite well. When you've got lots of magnetite, after you've crushed it, try doing a magnetic separation and seeing if the magnetite is carrying gold. If it's not, you can throw that away easily. Mining magnets makes a nice small scale machine that works pretty well on that. If the magnetite's got gold in it, well, then you're going to have to deal with it. If you were to take, your concentrates and leach them with the proper leaching solution, that might work out really well. As opposed to smelting, it's hard to tell. Yes, you just have to test it on a small scale to find out what you've got, where the gold is, and what works to get it out. And then once you've determined the methodology, then you can start scaling it up. There's a lot of things. This particular mine that we're working on now, we originally thought, because I got some pretty good gravity concentration equipment, wouldn't touch this ore. The gold is so fine it doesn't even settle in still water to speak of. And so we had to go to leaching. But you have to ask the rock questions and listen to the answers. Hey, Tricky. Yeah, Adam, it's 80% passing 2000 mesh. 6.8 microns. 80% passing 6.8 microns. Just a quick update, Tricky. Didn't get a whole lot done mining-wise this week for a number of reasons. Ordered a bunch of stuff in, and hopefully this week I'll be getting a lot of stuff done and getting geared up so that in a couple of weeks, once I'm fully healed from the surgery, I can really kick some butt over at the mill. So that's the quick synopsis. Yeah, Adam, it was pretty funny when I did kind of a preliminary test where I just took the crushed ore, stirred it up in water, and then decanted the top 1/3. I waited a minute, poured off the top 1/3, did it again, about 4 times. Then I let the stuff that I poured off the top settle and then dried it, sent it off for assay. It was higher grade than the head grade. That gold did not want to settle at all. My pretty good quality gravity concentrator was only getting about 15 to 20% recovery. Yeah, it was. And again, one of the big mistakes people make is that they buy equipment before they figured these things out. And unless it's very basic equipment, like my RC46 has been invaluable over the years because I can crush a reasonable amount of rock pretty easily at pretty high throughputs. So it's been extremely useful. But when it comes to extraction equipment stuff, you definitely want to do some small scale testing first, and for if you want to know if a gravity concentration is going to work, just try panning it. Pan it down carefully. Don't take it all the way to try and get gold. Just take it down to heavy cons and then have it assayed. Did the gold go in the cons or is it still in the tailings? If most of the gold's still in the tailings, yeah, you need to grind it more, or gravity's not going to work, or something. In my case, it's just the gold is too damn freaking fine. You know? But it dissolves like gangbusters. Oh my goodness. Anyhow, thank you, Mr. Virtue. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Today I was moving a little dirt. I had to use pick and rake and stuff. I was being careful. I wasn't, putting all my energy into it. Um, and seem to be doing fine. So just good exercise. I have to be careful right now, but so far I seem to be healing up really well. No, we're not using aqua regia. Aqua regia is very expensive, toxic, hazardous, et cetera, for leaching ore by the ton. I mean, we're looking at doing something like 1 ton per day. That would take an awful lot of aqua regia. Aqua regia makes a lot of fumes. Instead, we're using something called Eco Goldex. It's a chemical that's relatively non-toxic. We're operating at a pH of about 10 to 10.5. Good night, Roberts. So it's not very hazardous in that manner either. And it dissolves the gold. Once you got it liberated, it'll dissolve in less than 24 hours. Yeah, Chris, another testicle joke. It's getting boring. Come on, come up with something good. Night, John. You take care. But I mean, there was one time I was working on some valves. I actually splashed some on my face. Didn't even bother washing it off. It's that relatively mild and inert. Of course, I've got a pretty tough face, and it wouldn't matter much anyway. But yeah, is it aqua regia on the other hand? Oh, I'd have been in big trouble. So yeah, aqua regia is pretty nasty stuff. So you try and avoid using it on any kind of a large scale at all. No glide. I didn't have a glide in my walk before. I had swagger. Night, Mr. Virtue. But I say the Eco Goldex seems to dissolve the gold fast. That's right, man. That's right, Lexi. So then we can absorb it into resin pretty good. Oh. And then it's all about getting it out of the resin. There's different ways. We're trying basically the simplest. We found some interesting issues with smelting the resin that we're using. Strangely enough, if you oven dry it, gold becomes very hard to get out of it or evaporates. Not sure what. But what really messes up the recovery. That's why you do stuff on a small scale first. No, Tricky. I can still walk straight ahead. Man, so harsh. All this hostility. If I had emotions, I'd be upset. Anyhow, but that's what we did and why. Oh, now that one's better, Chris. Okay, that one's better. I'll go with that. I'll give you a 6.5 on that. Because you're losing because of so many of the old, much less effective ones. Okay. Going into old mines, we may have a couple that we're going to be checking out this year in the same areas as Montana B, but not planning on doing much exploration like we did last year. This is mainly just going to be exploitation. John, it's just going sideways now, little one. Yeah. I like Chris's last one wasn't bad. He's losing his marbles just one at a time now. That's not too bad. But anyhow, so that's our evil plan. And of course, everything is subject to whatever the hell the world does in the meantime. It's getting very frustrating. You don't know what to plan on, what's going to be there, what's not going to be there. It's like, crap, we can get it. We can get it now. Let's get it. Even if it's not exactly what we want. Because you order something, it may not show up. That's a good question. Let me check something here. I'm beginning to wonder when. I think maybe they said it was mid-April that the Canthal was going to show up, Chris. Still out of stock. For me, it's just a short walk, John. When I do samples for assay, I usually use Lawrence Hiddle. And come on. Should have him here somewhere. There we go. Ready, Adam?
Yeah.
This is right at the 3-hour mark. Oh, sorry, that's Billy. $300C for 1 hour. Okay. Oops, let me get it back over here. Sorry. There you go, Billy. It's $45 an assay and fast turnaround. You can get cheaper from bigger companies, except you're going to wind up with things like minimums, etc. And I say, Hiddle, we've double checked him several times, and seems to be pretty accurate. It's called Fast Fire Assay in Colorado. Let's see, 300C for 1 hour, huh? Let me write that down. Tricky. What is 300C? Should be about 500 or 600. $300C 1 hour. Now, is that just atmospheric tricky? I mean, you just basically open crucible sort of thing, or anything, any other details? $300C 1 hour. Okay, thank you, Tricky. Let's see, what is 300C? C2, yeah. So 300, tink, 572. Okay. Thank you, Tricky. Yeah, Adam, I don't think that would be too smart. I don't know why the liberals tend to concentrate in the big cities, but they sure do.
Because cities are a leftist thing.
I don't know.
Cities are more liberal than rural areas because of the nature of cities.
Could be. Not sure. You want to take over for a couple minutes, little one, while I go to the restroom there? apparently in a closed box or a closed crucible, I'm guessing. I was born in Grand Junction, Adam. Oh.
All right, I will take over.
Uh, oh.
Hello. Uh, no, actually, cities tend to be more liberal because, first of all, they're overcrowded. And second of all, the characteristics that determine a city tend to be more focused on cooperative and group efforts and social systems than they are on self reliance. And so stupidity stops hurting, so everybody gets stupid. Okay. And yes, food magically appears on the shelves. Hi, Chris. Yeah, I'm in the middle of doing surveys tonight. I am kicking butt on surveys these days, people. Everybody really should look more at actually using a smartphone to make money. Because I will tell you, this month, I am kicking butt. By the end of the month, I will have gotten $200 in gift cards on Amazon, Walmart, or some money to PayPal that he can use on stuff, you know?
I like stuff.
I even get paid to play games. This is cool. And yeah, it's fun, Mr. Virtue. It really is. It does not surprise me that they're charging $20 to look at their botanical garden. The question is their botanical garden actually good, you know? I mean, that's the question. Now, Tucson actually had a nice, very tiny botanical garden. Boston had a really nice arboretum. Bye.
Oh.
I get paid to listen to music. Ha! Beat that, y'all.
They said not metal as the gold could stick to the container. Well, I think I just put it in a probably a glazed crucible and with a cover on it. And then once I'm done roasting the resin, I could just throw the flux in there and recover the gold. That'd be nice if we had something like that where you can burn up a lot of resin in a relatively small crucible, get it down to gold, and then throw in a relatively small quantity of flux to finish the job. That would be nice. But they just said heat it up. And what did they say what kind of gas is evolved from that? Because it would have to if it breaks down, it has to break down into something. And I presume gas, or else you just have some other kind of solid in there with a bunch of gold in it. Any idea? Uh, yeah, we got. It's kind of nice having several people kind of doing the same thing or similar stuff. Um, Thank you, Tricky. Um, you got Tricky in the Philippines leaching and using a resin extraction. You got Javier down there in uh, South America doing a similar thing, and me here, and then Ned in Australia.
What is your current gender identity?
My current gender identity, I think I'm an Alpha Centaurian. Yeah, yeah, I'm an illegal alien. No papers. Oh well. Ammonia, NOx, CO, CO2, and some random HCs. Where's the oxygen coming from, Chris? Oh, damn it. Okay, Adam. That's not bad. Uh, Okay. Thank you, Tricky. It'll probably be a couple days anyhow. I say it's probably gonna be Friday before I get back out to Lawrence. We shall see what we shall see. Um, Depends a lot on Lauren, how he's doing. Um, I know he's still got. He's in the middle of a job. I got to help him get that finished up here. That may be why the damp resin recovers the best. Just breaking it up. Oh yeah, definitely, John. Um, Over at Lauren's house, he's got a really good vent hood that I can put the thing in, and I've got another vent hood out at the ranch too. Although I think I want to see about putting in another exhaust port a lot higher up on the wall. Oh. Okay, anyone else got anything here? I'm getting kind of tired myself. Glad you showed up, Tricky. That's interesting information. Thank you. Oh. Gosh, I'm supposed to be able to maintain a monologue. I don't feel like maintaining a monologue. Any questions or subjects, anybody? Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, 11 hours. That's a lot, Adam. We'll do our best, Billy. Yeah, John. Thank you, Tricky. Oh. Thank you, Mr. Virtue. Oh. Anyone else got any questions or anything? Uh, okay. Going once. Any questions or subjects? Okay, Chris. Dolomite is a form of limestone. It's calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate. And um, it's a little tougher than regular limestone, and it is less reactive. If you put acid on it, it doesn't fizz as much. But that's what dolomite is. It's also a sedimentary rock formed from water. Tricky is, I don't know. I don't think he's using Eco Goldex. He's using another Chinese leaching agent, probably somewhat similar. No, Billy. I had some prospects down there in Arizona. None of them turned out to be profitable. Then we moved up here, and I mean, I was working from the get go up here on this project. We'll probably be claiming something someday. You too, Keith. Take care. Go ahead, Pat. Send me a video. I hope so, Jeff. Say we hope everything works out well. Say the latest information I have is that it's not life threatening, and he may not need an operation even. So that would be very good. Yeah, Jin Chan. Say it's another Chinese elixir. For all we know, it's the exact same thing with a different label on it. Have no idea. Correct, Adam. So can regular limestone too. But I say the dolomite we've got is in an actual formation that's precipitated out of Salt Lake, Inland Sea, something like that. Yeah, Chris seems to think it's the same stuff, and Chris is pretty smart about such thing. I don't think he would say that if he wasn't pretty confident. Oh, okay. Any other questions or subjects? Oh, and yeah, if anyone's the praying type or whatever, you could send some good energy towards Lauren. I'd appreciate it. He's been a great help. Uh, okay, any new subjects going twice? Take care, Pat. Same patent, same description, huh? Okay. Yeah, just a different label. Okay. Going 3 times. Thank you all for showing up, and I'll try and have a more interesting night next week. Jim should be back. So he's just working on a car right now, so not a big deal. And hopefully I'll get a lot of stuff done this week, but we shall see what we shall see. Life is what happens when you're making other plans. All righty. Well, good night, everybody. Thanks a lot for coming. Happy prospecting and keep it safe out there.